is a part of the Autism Speaks committee. And he also has a grandson, that has autism. Please help us welcome James Raymaker. Hello there. Hello. Welcome.
Thank you.
So, James, how long have you actually been with Autism Speaks, and why did you get involved in the first place?
I chaired the first Walk for Autism in Wisconsin, which was 3 years ago. And I got involved because of my grandson. And I go back a couple years before that. There was a group in Chicago that were grandparents of autistic kids. And this was before there was even a group in Wisconsin, Autism Speaks. So then I got in touch with them to set up a grandparents thing, and they said, well, we're going to do a walk. And I chaired the first walk.
Well, how old was your grandson when he was diagnosed with autism?
He was 3.5 years old, which I wish was a lot earlier than that, but the earlier the better.
Yeah. Okay. And from a grandfather's perspective, how was that for your family?
Lots of different emotions, but clearly a lot of things that had been said already I would echo, but there's sadness, there's confusion, there's disappointment, anger, all those things. And a lot of them don't go away because you think you're going in one direction and then all of a sudden you're going in a different direction.
So specifically, what is Autism Speaks? How has Autism Speaks helped your family?
Indirectly, they're the leading funder of research on autism. $140 million have been committed so far, and a lot of advocacy. They help get insurance companies recognized in Wisconsin for autism. They help with families that have a child that's diagnosed. I believe it's called 100 Days, which is wonderful. I wish it were available when my grandson was diagnosed, because that's very hard. You're really out there on your own, and only those that are facing it or have someone on the spectrum understand what they're going through.
So we keep talking about the spectrum of autism. Can you explain more about what the spectrum is?
Well, that's kind of difficult, but there are a lot of things that are grouped together. The best way I can describe it is that it's a function of the brain and things that are not happening the way they should. But if you go back in time, 20 years ago, 1 in 10,000 kids were diagnosed with autism. Today, it's down to 1 in 110, and even greater, 1 in 70 for males.
Yeah, that's what I wanted to ask. Like, why is it more prone in little boys than it is little girls?
That's what a lot of the research is all about, trying to figure that out. There are lots of concepts, lots of beliefs. Autism Speaks it does not take a stand either way, because as far as they're concerned, nothing is conclusive at this point.
Right.
But for something that touches so many people, there are very few research dollars that go into it. Less than 5% of all the research for all the childhood issues goes for autism, and yet it exceeds everything else combined. So it's a struggle.
So as far as autism, do you believe that there is progress now? Because it seems like if there's 1 in 10,000 people being diagnosed, now it's 1 in 110.
Right.
Is there progress? Because I believe that it has this.
Well, I think the greatest progress is awareness and early identification. The earlier you diagnose, the quicker you can start to work on things. And every day there's something new that comes out. So that's to me the greatest thing of all. But as much as we've learned, we've really barely scratched the surface. There's so much more out there. And clearly all your speakers have been great. And one of the things that came out, which I don't know a lot about, but how do you deal with adults as they enter
The world.
adulthood? And with all these people, we better understand that.
Yes.
And And people that don't have friends or families with someone on the spectrum, they need to understand what it's all about. It makes me sad when I'm in a situation where you see a child acting out, and if you've been around autistic kids, you know what the deal is. And the first thing that people will say is, why can't you discipline the child?
Why can't they get them under control?
So, it definitely does make you kind of look at situations a little bit differently. Like maybe they're not just bad kids, maybe there's something else.
So we really need to educate the entire population of what it's all about, what can be done, how to be supportive, and to be helpful.
So what are some ways you think that we can do that?
The Autism Walk, one of the things that I'm very hopeful and happy about is more and more kids that are not directly related to autism are participating. So that helps. Every one that comes along can take the message back. I think schools are more aware of it. They're not pushing kids off in the corner. They're mainstreaming to a large extent. So every little bit helps, but there's a big message to deliver. And you see more ads for autism now too, which I think that's helping for people to understand that it's all around.
So now the donations and the money that you guys get from the walks, do you guys just put that towards researching it, or do you get with different schools and put together programs in the school for autistic kids, or how does that work?
There are lots of different groups that work with autism, and they're all doing a fine job, and for the most part, from what I can see, everybody cooperates. Autism Speaks is very strong on the research side. As I said, $140 million, and $300,000 comes to the University of Wisconsin for research. But the research is a big thing. The advocacy is another. The helping families right away and making them aware of all the resources that are there. Part of our walk, we have 30 plus people at our research center. All the various things that are available. There's a book that shows all the places that parents can go for help. So
how can they get their hands on that book for parents that may be watching that need help?
A very good place, if you have access to a computer, is autismspeaks.org. And there are blogs there, there's research there, there's just about everything that you can imagine. It's a great clearinghouse.
Speaking of resources, like we just became aware of Temple Grandin's story, but a lot of people who are affected by autism, they know about that. Do you think that her story was rare, and do you think that because a child can become that successful as an adult, do you think that's the norm, or?
I would love to say it's the norm, but I would be hard pressed to acknowledge that as the norm. But it's very inspirational, and there are lots of great stories like that. There are books out, any number of books that talk about autistic kids or kids on the spectrum that have done some amazing things. There's a book in particular called Born on a Blue Day about a child that was very brilliant, and he could focus and learn things quickly. And so they gave him a test. Could he learn a language that he had no knowledge of in a week?
Wow.
And he did.
Wow.
Yeah. So there are lots of good things out there.
Yes. If anything, like don't limit your child.
Right.
Test and see.
Different areas.
Little geniuses.
Everything is a work in progress, and you hear everything that's been said today, and the people that have the kids that are doing all these great things, they are the pioneers.
Yeah.
And that's what we build on.
Well, thank you for being here. Thank you for sharing
for inviting me.
We'd like to thank all of our guests today for sharing their personal stories. We hope they helped you. And one thing I hope is that they inspired you, that if you have a child that may be showing some different behavior from most children, get it checked out. Do not always go with what the doctors diagnosed your child as. Research. You are the parent. Do not let the doctors diagnose your child and let that be that. So I hope you guys learned something. If you have family members, friends, or whoever who has autistic family members, please stick by their side and stay tuned for more Spectrum Talk shows. Bye.